shit. Forgot about that one. Shut up.
What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, we know. Remember, whenever my phone gets some sort of
Oh, that's right, yeah.
cellular signal, it freaks out. Oh, you know what it was?
What?
It was the YouTube app telling me that the Sober Happy Hour just went live on YouTube. That's really funny.
How nice of it.
How nice of it to fuck with us in such a way. You bastards. All right, let's get the song ready to go. All right, from the beginning. Very nice, very nice. All right. So I actually have a multimedia track for the show tonight as sort of an update to something that we talked about a couple months ago. And so it's the first time that we're going to try to play an audio file. I'm hearing an echo of myself.
Okay.
First time that I'm going to play an audio file that's going to allow us to hear something amongst the three of us.
You mean like music?
No, it's not. It's not music. It's an audio clip. You'll see. You'll see. All right, are we ready to get this? I'm still hearing myself. Are you wearing different headphones tonight, Robinson?
No.
Are they turned up very loud?
Yeah.
Because I can hear myself through your headphones.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Because you have your microphone turned up really loud. Because you refuse to put the big black muff next to your face.
Okay. Can you still hear yourself?
Hello? Can I hear myself? Oh, yeah. Chaz can probably hear me, too.
Okay.
I can hear you.
How about now?
Hello? Checking. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, my microphone is off.
So then I hear you.
Wait, you can hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, wait. Then I must have the wrong microphone on. Let me check this.
I guarantee.
No way. I just had it. Okay.
He always tries to blame me, Chaz. Every time it's my fault. And it often is,
Okay.
but not this time.
My bad. I was turning the wrong knob.
That's what she said.
She's sick.
I beat you to it.
Fuck you, buddy.
Oh, man.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can still hear myself. Hello, hello, hello?
Yep.
Nope. Now I do not.
But can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little quiet now, though.
Can you hear me chewing my food?
I can hear you in that microphone for sure, though. Hey, it sounds like a hamster I used to have named MC Hamster.
Seriously?
Yeah, what? You didn't have one of those?
MC Hamster.
MC Hamster. All right, let's do this, motherfuckers. All right, are you done chewing your food, Robinson?
Wait.
Almost?
Okay, go.
All right, ready. And broadcast in... Started in 5, 4, 3. I think I hear myself again. No, I don't.
Didn't
Just
say
kidding.
anything.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. I am your host. We are coming to you live on YouTube.com and streaming into your eardrums and all around the world via podcast on iTunes, on Last.fm, on Stitcher, on all kinds of other applications and things. I don't know.
What the hell is Stitcher?
Something just popped up on my screen and it threw off my train of thought, and now I don't know what the hell's going on in my life. Remind me later. There we go. So, thank you for joining. We can be gotten a hold of via email, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @soberhappyhour. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/soberhappyhour. And make sure that if you are a YouTuber or someone who likes YouTube, that you hit that red subscribe button right somewhere down in my nether regions. Basically, if you think you're clicking on my junk, you're probably clicking subscribe. So visualize my junk and click on it, and now you are subscribed. Oh, yeah!
Subscribing to your junk.
That's right. Some people have called this show garbage, so
Wow.
no one has called this show garbage. God damn it.
That's right.
But I missed you guys, and I am with here, as always, with my two very good friends, Chaz and Robinson. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello,
Gentlemen.
gentlemen.
Well, wonderful. It's lovely to see you,
Yes.
my
It's
pretties.
wonderful to be seen.
Scene.
Seen
To be
and
seen.
seen. Okay, different kind of scene. So we didn't get to have a show last week. Chaz was out of town. Where were you, Chaz?
I was in Philadelphia, thank
In
you.
Philly. What did you do
Yes.
there?
I was at a convention.
Like
And it was
comic
all-
convention?
No, like work
What?
convention.
The most boringest kind of convention.
No, it was not boring.
It wasn't boring?
Heck no, it was a ton
Well,
of fun.
tell us about it.
Well, it would sound boring to you because it's all about, work and everything.
I
And
love my work.
You love your work.
Right, which means I love your work too. Come on, tell us something. Okay, how about this? How long were you there?
I was there 5 days, I believe.
Okay, where did you stay?
I stayed at the Society Hill Sheraton. Yeah.
Okay, so you stayed in a hotel
Yes.
for 4 nights.
Uh-huh.
You flew in an airplane.
Yes, I did. That
Flew
I
out
did.
of Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, I'm assuming.
That's right.
Flew into Philadelphia International Airport.
Something of that.
I made that up.
Yeah.
So my guess is something during this 5-day period of time, something happened. Anything that you could share with us about your trip. As Robinson gets all psychedelic with his lava lamp and chews on his crackers.
Okay, so I hosted a forum with about, I don't know, maybe 60 people who were there from all across the country, and it kind of started like a national dialogue that's now going to probably go on probably over the course of the next year or so. I'm really going to try and get this conversation continuously going. It's kind of right at a very crucial time for us in Arizona as far as recovery support goes. We're developing our interstate reciprocity policy, and it's right at a time when there's a push by Mental Health America for a nationalized credential, which all of us states are looking at this thing going, hi, you're totally stepping on our feet and in our territory. So really it was kind of our way of busting onto the national scene and being like, hey, wait a minute, our voice, at state administrators and everything else, those of us who really will have to put up with this kind of thing if they ever go forward with it, we haven't been part of this conversation, so now it's time for our voices to be heard. That's what happened.
Dude, that was like the best 45-second explanation of anything ever. And here you were about to be like, oh, it was whatever, boring. That sounds not only significant, but also amazing. And you said that you hosted this conference.
Yeah, not the conference. I facilitated the forum, and facilitating a large forum, it is quite an interesting experience.
Scary.
No, not really.
Nerve-wracking.
Not really. Basically, your mind, your consciousness has to be in several different places at once.
Whoa.
Because you have to be there for like responding and listening to the person who's talking, but you also have to be like 3 people ahead of them so that people aren't just like all raising their hand and everything else and fighting to go next. So you cannot go to, okay, we're gonna go here, 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 and then there. All right, so go.
You just said that your consciousness had to be in 3 places at once.
Yep.
That's called astral projection.
No, that's called hyper conscious.
It's actually called, part of it is like dissociation.
Yeah, definitely.
Say that again.
Dissociation, and it's
Disassociation.
no, dissociation, and it's really kind of a, I mean, in that instance, it's almost like a skill. It's almost like something it's just a natural human mental, I guess, mental phenomenon. And so really, you have to like.
You don't give yourself enough credit, my friend. That is not a natural thing. That is a
Yeah, it
learned
is.
skill. No, it is a learned skill. Just like, so for me, getting up on stage with a guitar and playing in front of people, it comes very naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
But other people look at that and they go, I couldn't do that if you paid me $1 million. I would die. So you being able to host a forum, a funny thing happened. Never mind.
On the way to the forum?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's a play.
You got it. I was in that play years ago. It was fantastic. But it is a skill. You deserve more credit than you're giving to yourself because it is not an easy thing to do.
The reason I always like kind of just play it down is because I listen to myself when I'm talking, and it's like, dude, you sound like you're bragging.
Well, of course, but that's not bragging. So I will brag for you because that is kudos to you, my friend. You deserve credit for being not only willing to get up there in front of a group of 60 people and speak and answer questions and be put on the spot, but also I give you kudos for doing it successfessly because I have seen many people get up in front of groups of people and just crash and burn, and it sounds like it was a success.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to hold it all.
So good on you, my friend.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Very hard.
Thank you.
So that was what Chaz was not with us last week to do. So I say that's commendable, and we are willing to miss an episode of the Sober Happy Hour to move the state of Arizona forward when it comes to addiction recovery and mental health and the things that you work on. So that's awesome. What's also funny is Robinson said that somebody told him this week that he was a sex addict. Where did that conversation come from?
Yeah.
Where did that accusation come from?
Well, it was just as a matter of fact.
I was going to say accusation or observation.
Observation. I'm sorry.
Not even an observation. It was just like, well, I'm an alcoholic. Mike is a gameaholic, and you're a sexaholic, or so we all have our things. I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like, wow.
So it's just as a matter of fact,
Yo, way to just call me out in front of all my friends, Dick. Speaking of dicks.
Dicks. Ah, my lava lamp.
Oh, you broke it.
No, it came unplugged.
So, all right. I still hear myself, and the fact that you could just lie to my face about the headphones that you're using, Robinson, if I could reach through the Hangouts and punch you in the head, because those aren't the same headphones that you always use. They look different.
They're the only ones I have.
Well, then somebody stole your old ones and then replaced them with
the
those.
ones that I've always had.
I don't know. I can hear myself. That's all I'm saying.
I will turn the volume down further.
Well, I just want to be able to hear you, and I definitely don't want to hear two of me. That sounds awful.
I can turn the volume in my headphones down, too.
Yes, that would probably be all that needs to happen.
But I'm deaf, so...
What?
What?
Huh? So, I want to play something. So, for those that don't remember, we had an episode where part of the episode we discussed a wonderful, caring, beautiful individual who just happens to be the Republican governor of the great state of Maine. Does anyone, including the man with the bag of Fritos, know or remember the name of said governor?
No.
And if you say Captain Douchebag, that counts.
Oh, yeah, that did. I remember now.
His name was Paul LePage.
Paul
and
LePage.
He has been the governor of the state of Maine for the last couple of years. He still has I think it's a total of 6 years, and there's a blonde-headed kid that just walked into the office. And then he noticed the show was going on, and he made this like terrified face of "oh shit," and then walked right out behind me. That was really funny. So he's got 4 more years, good lord, of his term as governor, and his name is Paul LePage, and he is vile, and he is just terrible in every way. He's a terrible lawmaker, he's a terrible governor, but more than that, because we have plenty of those in our country, he is also a terrible person. He was the guy that said, you got guys named Shifty and Big Mac coming up from Connecticut and New York, bringing heroin to Maine, and then having sex and getting white girls pregnant on their way back to Connecticut and New York City after bringing their heroin to get all the white kids on heroin, which was his first big national gaffe. His second one was telling a journalist that another Maine lawmaker had been giving it to the legislature for the last X many years without the courtesy of using Vaseline, so insinuating that he's been fucking them up the ass for the last, however many decades because he disagreed with him.
Giving what?
Well, and Robinson, the sex addict, could tell you, you don't lube your shit with Vaseline. What is this, 1967? Like, everybody knows Vaseline, number one, interferes with condom use. Way to promote safe sex, governor. Number two, it doesn't work for shit. It's too thick and goopy. You need proper lube. A silicone-based lube, if I may say so myself.
Coconut oil works amazing.
Really? And that's what the Brazilians use. So that was number 2. Number 3 and number 4 and 5 and 6 and 10, there was one recently where he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote in front of me right now, that there was no reason to... That you're killing me with those Fritos. There's no reason for us to pass a law allowing first responders to administer Narcan, the life-saving drug that's used for opioid addicts that are in overdose, where it can extend their life and keep them breathing for 30, 60 minutes, long enough for them to get to the hospital and get treatment. There was no reason to pass this law because extending the life of a heroin addict who is in the midst of an overdose was basically just delaying the inevitable, that they were worthless and they were going to die anyway, so why bother? And he got a lot of flack for that. And I was one that gave him quite a bit of flack for that, and I called him out on this show a couple of months ago, and I think I called him Governor Fuckface, and I stand by those statements.
Seems about right, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess he got in a bit of a tiff with a local state senator or state congressman or something, state representative in Maine, because this state rep essentially called him a racist, which I think is accurate, behind his back. He referred to him as a racist in one way or another, or I don't even think he called him a racist. He basically insinuated that he uses race in a negative way and that he has used racist remarks in the past. And Paul LePage decided he was going to pick up his cell phone and call this Maine state rep and let him know how he was feeling. So I'm going to play the clip. It's only 39 seconds long. And not that anybody would care if you watch or listen to this show. You know that this is not a kid-friendly language type show, unless your kids are awesome like my kids, where I don't shield them from bad language because it's 2016 and they have access to the fucking internet anyway. So here are Governor, remember that part, Paul douchebag LePage having a fucking meltdown via voicemail to a state representative from the state of Maine. Here it is. I will play it in its entirety. Enjoy.
Mr. Gattini, this is Governor Paul Richard LePage. I would like to talk to you about your comments about my being a racist, you cocksucker. And I want to talk to you. I want you to prove that I'm a racist. I've spent my life helping black people, and you little son of a bitch, socialist cocksucker, I need you to, I want you to record this and make it public because I am after you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that he ends it with thank you.
Dude, I call BS. I think that's fake.
Dude, 100% that's him. He even came out later to the media to confirm that it was him, saying, I said those things.
But I think it's... Oh, really?
Yes, I said those things, and I'll tell you what, if it were up to me right now, I would take us back to the 1800s so that we can duel me and this state rep, and I would put a gun between his eyes and pull the trigger, is what he said on national television. Threatening to murder this state representative on national television.
Oh my God.
The guy is insane. So here's the interesting part. So he came out, he 100% confirmed that this was him that left this voicemail. He even told this state rep, make this public, I don't care. And the weird part is that this took a strange turn, because he essentially threatened that he was going to come to this guy's hometown and that he wanted to challenge him to a town hall debate last minute. They're like, hey, 3 days from now I'm gonna come to your town and we're gonna have a debate brawl in your elementary school's cafeteria or something like that, and threatened that he wanted to challenge him to a duel and shoot him between the eyes. And then, instead of public outcry, public outrage over this man's use of the word cocksucker multiple times and calling him a son of a bitch and ridiculous things that you do not expect to hear from a sitting U.S. governor, the Democrats, who are on the receiving end of this man's psychoses, instead of using this to their advantage, they kind of came out more worried about him than anything else. Worried that maybe there's some mental illness here. Maybe there's some drug use or alcohol abuse going on here, and that's why he's flying off the handle and acting like a lunatic, because maybe he's in a drug-fueled rage. Maybe he's off his rocker. Maybe he is legitimately mentally unstable right now, and they reached out to see about getting him help. And I thought that was remarkable, especially in this current political climate that we're in, when it seems to be completely acceptable for somebody seeking the highest office in the land to be insane, and everybody thinks that's okay, and we're going to vote for him. And wow. So so I know, Chaz, your initial reaction was that's fake. That's a spoof. Somebody made that up, and it just made it around the internet. But it is real. So you obviously thought, wow, that's way far and beyond anything that could possibly be said by a sitting U.S. governor. Unfortunately, it is. Robinson, knee-jerk reaction.
Well, I'm surprised that he isn't like being removed from office immediately, but maybe the position that he's in is like secure enough that he can say whatever the fuck he wants. Like that guy in Canada who just kept getting elected after like
smoking crack
hookers,
on camera. Yeah, Toronto Governor Chubby Cheeks McGee, whatever his name was.
Yeah, but that's Canada.
Right.
That's not the U.S. So
Well,
I don't know, but I think it's, and you compare him to like Trump, who can say anything he wants, and people are like, giving him the thumbs up. Trump is getting a lot of press, but I still don't think he's going to get a lot of votes.
well, and it's even, I mean, the polling that exists right now kind of tells that tale because
Right.
the further he tries to go to the center to make even the possibility of getting enough votes to win possible, the further he slips in the polls because the people that love him for how hateful and how anti-immigrant and anti-everything he is, and how he has no plan for anything except that I'm going to make this the greatest country in the whole world again because I'm great. I'm the greatest there ever was. And if you want real greatness, then you'll elect a great person such as me, period, end of sentence. Because it will be huge.
You know what I realized Trump sounds like the other day? I think, like, the way he talks, okay, he always, like, ends up repeating things.
Over and over again.
Well, like, at the very end of a sentence, he'll say something twice. And I think it's a very sloppy and clumsy attempt at neuro-linguistic programming.
Ooh.
But what it comes out sounding like is, and this is why I had that post on Facebook the other day, sounds like the guy from Goodfellas, who always like says like Tommy 2 times or something.
Yeah.
He had like the
Okay,
nervous tick
well,
where he'd always say shit twice.
he
That's what
grew
he
up.
sounds like.
He grew up the richest kid in school. And like, not only was he the only kid with a car, but he had a Cadillac,
Sure.
which was like far above and beyond anyone else's expectations. And he knew how privileged he was, but he was always still trying to like come down to everyone else's level and not be recognized as that, rich, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, handsome guy. But he
So
just
why'd
wanted
he
to
turn
be,
into a prick?
Well, and that's what's so funny,
he
Jazz.
never had friends. He's was never like into girls. He was just always focused on being a negotiator.
Yeah.
And when he took over his father's construction or development business, he became like the supreme developer, which that's where the whole Trump Tower thing came from. He fucking lost so much money and he was so bankrupt so many times in the course of that, but he was a good negotiator and a good talker. And I
He
don't,
knows
yeah,
how to get
very sloppy
people.
NLP, but somehow he just got people to like him.
Yeah.
So,
He's a salesman.
yeah, he's
And
a salesman. He's
right. And he'll tell and it's never in my adult life have I seen a presidential election sound so much like a high school presidential election where
yeah,
the high school president is telling you we're going to have longer lunch periods and no more homework and the teachers will not be allowed to send us to the principal's office anymore. Mackenzie 2016. And the crowd loves it and they're so it's contagious, the admiration for this guy, right? And you believe them, and then they become class president and they obviously can't do any of that shit, and you forget all about it because it was a popularity contest, and they, of course people are going to vote for no more homework and extra long lunch break, but that's unrealistic. Building a wall and having Mexico pay for it is never going to happen.
right. That's true.
How did he think that? We'll just pay. Yeah,
It is a
sure.
popularity contest. In fact, the presidency election has always been
Of course.
That's what
that.
democracy is.
Exactly.
I read this is a weird thing. I read in an almanac somewhere many years ago that Thomas Jefferson lost the election and complained that he lost the election because he's ugly and asked for a revote and asked people to vote on his politics instead of his appearance. And they did, and then he won the election.
How did
Nixon.
people know so much about how he looked like? That was back in the days before like mass media and shit.
Carrier pigeons, bro. Carrier
No.
pigeons.
Because he still had to go on tour, just
He had
like
to
the
make the
presidents
rounds.
today. They
Ah.
still, they went
Smaller
around.
country. But it's interesting because there is proof in the modern era of that when Nixon and Kennedy had their first debate on television, and Kennedy was dressed to the nines and looked very calm and cool and had a little bit of makeup on, and Nixon was like, no, absolutely not, no makeup, that's ridiculous. And so he looked all sweaty and disheveled, and all of a sudden Kennedy's numbers went up like double digits after that televised debate, when if the people that only heard the debate thought
Yes.
above and away that Nixon won. But the people that saw the debate, it was like 10-1 thought Kennedy won because of his appearance and how he looked. And he was very handsome, and he was dreamy and young and not fat and sweaty and gross. So absolutely. But when you take a 70-year-old woman and a 70-year-old orange creamsicle and put them on camera together, like these debates that are happening next month will be incredible if he
They will
doesn't
be
figure out a way.
historical.
If he doesn't figure out a way to pussy out like George H.W. Bush tried to pussy out of debates with Bill Clinton, and it wasn't until the very last minute that they basically said, you're losing, bro. You cannot pussy out of these debates or you're done for. Trump has already tried to claim that the debate schedule is unfair and that this is, Hillary's media machine trying to destroy me. The Clintons had nothing to do with setting up the debate schedule. The debate schedule was set up months before they had chosen the actual candidates that would be winning the primary. They set up these debates forever ago, and everybody from the RNC and the DNC agreed to the dates. So he comes in and says, no, this was Hillary trying to manipulate the dates, and it's like total horseshit, but people believe anything that they hear. If it's on Breitbart, if it's on Fox News, and same goes for the left, if it's on MSNBC, they believe it to be 100% accurate, when it's usually something more in the middle. But that doesn't sell tickets to rallies. That doesn't, like, why is Trump doing rallies in fucking Washington State? There is no way on God's green earth that he wins in Washington State, but he's doing rallies there and spending his donors' money to do rallies in Washington where he cannot win. But it's because they can put that on TV
I thought
and
he
make
was
him look
self-funded.
awesome. He's not self-funded anymore, not since he won the primary.
I know.
It's but people still believe that. Everybody thinks, oh, he's still self-funded. No, he's not. The motherfucker who is
sold out.
well, and there is one dude who is basically bankrolling his entire operation now, and it is how he has ended up with the Breitbart guy as the CEO of his campaign. I didn't know campaigns had CEOs. And his campaign manager is that weird chick, that lying chick, and apparently she was also being bankrolled by this same guy. So one dude is responsible for the
Wasn't he the
top
guy who
management.
was like in like his former employers were aides to depose like Eastern European and South American dictators?
That was the guy that finally left because they figured that out.
Oh, okay.
He had been paid $8 million by the Russian government for doing stuff.
Stuff. Just
Yeah.
Miscellaneous expenses.
That's essentially
Job
what it
duties
was.
as required.
That is literally the extent of what was written in the books. Was he came over and did stuff. Here's $8 million.
Other office duties as
Yes.
required.
Okay.
Love it.
So, Paul LePage, they fear he may be losing it, and maybe he never had it in the first place. He may have always been nuts. But this is what happens when we are so divided in this country that even things that are incredibly popular amongst everyone, like, background checks before you can buy a gun. 90% of the population of this country think that there should be background checks on any and every gun sale in our country. 90%. People don't even believe 90% that that ice cream is delicious. That you couldn't get 90% of Americans to agree to that. But 90% agree that background checks for gun sales should be mandatory, and yet if the Republicans say that that's a terrible idea, and the Democrats say that it's a good idea, then it will be split nearly 50-50, even though 90% say that it should be when you ask them and take the politics out of the question. We live in a society of confusion and just ridiculous partisanship that is only being made worse now by this ass clown like Donald Trump or Paul LePage or you name it. And there are so many current office holders that have been indicted for corruption or have been what's the word I'm looking for? They've been ostracized by their constituents for their behavior. The family values conservative who has a mistress on the side and an illegitimate child. And yet we forget about all those things and we reelect them and reelect them and reelect them because we change our political maps in the country every 4 or every 6 years. It's called gerrymandering, and we make it almost impossible to kick representatives, congressmen, and senators out of their seats. So it's rigged. It's completely fucking rigged. 8 years ago, in 2008, Donald J. Trump said on camera that Hillary Clinton would make a wonderful president. She would be perhaps the most capable president that this country would ever see. Fast forward 8 years, and his words are opposite. Hillary Clinton would be the worst president this country has ever seen. She is corrupt, she is crooked, and she will take us back to the Dark Ages. So which one is it? Because it can't be both.
When are we supposed to believe him, and when are we not to?
Right. I don't know. So enough about that. So,
have you ever heard of the term randomocracy?
No.
Does that mean put a bunch of names on a Wheel of Fortune wheel and spin it and say, there's your president? Wherever it lands,
Yeah,
nobody knows.
It's kind of like that. It's a concept that I read in a book where you are elected by lottery, and your term is not a 4-year term. It's a 6-year term. And the first 2 years are just you learning how to become the president for the next 2 years. And then the ending 2 years are teaching the next winner of the lottery how to become the president and teaching him. So you're basically like, it's a flow. And so the new person who comes in, he's got 2 years to learn everything about how it works and how to kind of, when he gets into office, he can add his 2 cents and change the direction, kind of steer the bus a little bit differently. And
that's actually kind of a good idea.
Heck yeah.
And then, it's just kind of like this constant flow. And everybody, regardless of their level of intelligence or, background, everybody is capable of winning this lottery. You can't opt out of it.
Really? So it's like the selective service. You get drafted into the presidency.
And I imagine you'd have to have some sort of responsibility with it. In other words, knowing that at any time you could be, whenever it came up, knowing that it could be you, you probably wouldn't live your life as a total asshole.
Exactly. And then I guess in the beginning, like once someone is, once they've won the lottery, they would have to go through some kind of a test to make sure that they're even capable of having enough intelligence to understand how it works and what's going on. I mean, if somebody's like obviously retarded, then you don't want to have him. Or maybe it would be a good idea to have a retarded person for president. I don't know. Just to kind of like make it more interesting.
Well,
I like the
so
idea of randomocracy.
well, what's funny is so John Oliver did a little piece a couple of weeks ago when Trump's numbers really started to fall, and he had a couple of really bad political weeks. He picked a fight with a Muslim family whose son was killed in Iraq fighting for the Americans, and basically just said some horrible things about them, and then turned around and talked about somebody gave him a Purple Heart medal that they had received in the military, and how I always wanted a Purple Heart, but this was way easier way of getting one. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Did you really just say that? And so John Oliver pointed out that it looked like Trump was intentionally trying to bomb his campaign because he has no honest interest in being president, and that this was all just a stunt, a popularity stunt to get a bump in ratings for The Apprentice and to sell some Make America Great Again hats. And
he still supports Hillary.
Right, exactly. And
oh my God.
Right, he wants Hillary to win. He always did, and knew that this would be the best way to make that happen. That was his theory. But then the theory got better. And he pointed out a book from a couple decades ago called The Kid Who Ran for President. And this 12-year-old kid runs for president and ends up nearly being elected until he turned around and admitted to the public that this was a stunt and that he just wanted to see how far he could take this sham of a presidential campaign, and then called out the adults of the country saying, "Are you kidding me? I have a question for the grown-ups of America. Are you out of your minds? Are you expecting me to enforce the Constitution? I never even read it. I was absent from school that day." And then basically saying, look, this is how Trump could get out of this race. He gets to the end and says, I just wanted to see how far I could take this by saying that we're going to stop all Muslims from getting into this country. I'm going to kick out every Mexican. I am going to treat black people like objects and ask them for their vote in a very patronizing way. I'm going to talk about making our inner cities better while giving that speech in a suburb of a city with an urban problem, with urban youth and violence and lack of opportunity and education, and just everything you could think of that just doesn't make any sense. And then turn around and say, I wanted to shed light on how broken our system is, that you were about to elect somebody like me to run your country, and that is terrifying, and it should terrify you. So I am going to bow out and allow somebody capable to do this job, and I hope you've learned your lesson.
I don't feel like that's too far out there.
There was something else that happened. A reporter went out in the South, like I think it was in Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, like all these states, and asked hundreds of people about their voting. And a lot of people who never vote because they just don't give a shit, they don't believe in the system, have come out and decided that now they're going to vote. They're going to vote not because they they're going to vote for Hillary not because they think she's great, but because they specifically do not want Trump
Right.
to become president. So it makes me wonder if his whole campaign of being like the fucking asshole is to get people to vote for Hillary.
Well, and
If you've only got two options,
right.
vote, if I say I'm a fucking asshole, vote for me, but inside I really want you to vote for the other person. I mean, it's a great way to just ruin the whole fucking system. And he's
Well,
doing it if that's his intention. He's calling. I love it. I'm starting to love it.
And we are, and the sad part is, I live in a very red state, and there are people, and I've read on the news, who I'm driving around, and I don't put political stickers on my car because I don't want it to get keyed, but there was a young college student driving around with a Bernie 2016 bumper sticker who was literally driven off the road by some jackass in a big lifted truck with a Trump 2016 sticker on his car, who targeted her because of her Bernie Sanders sticker. Like, when did it come to this?
Honestly, this will be an election that people will remember.
Yeah.
Elections that have gone on in the past that were like, hey, you remember Romney and Obama back in
2012.
2012.
It was so dirty, so nasty.
Yeah, nothing happened. I mean, I had to remember who even ran.
Right.
And this is one that people are going to remember for
I know.
a long time.
Do you remember Bush Dukakis in 1988?
Sort of.
Yeah, oh my
Of course
God.
not, because nothing fucking happened. But it was the first time that someone, put up a negative television ad about someone, and oh my God, Michael Dukakis called Poppy Bush, what do they call him, like Vice President Chicken or something, because he was
like
Ronald Reagan's VP, and they called him a chicken.
Well, like
that was the worst thing ever.
There was the Bush versus Gore, and then there was what's it called?
But that's what started this modern
Goldwater,
era
yeah.
of fucked up elections. Was Bush Gore?
This one is like ultra.
This is
fucked
beyond the
up.
pale.
Yeah.
Because no one, and Trump said it himself, I could walk down Fifth Avenue, take out a gun, and shoot someone, and I wouldn't go down in the polls, is what he said a few months ago. That's how great I am. That's how much my supporters love me, that I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, and I wouldn't go down in the polls.
You know what they call that in some? They call that a dictator.
Of course.
Yeah.
they call that type of shit absolute power.
Marco Rubio.
Here you have your guy, and he's talking like any other fucking dictator.
Yeah.
People, I mean, please listen to what's being said here.
These are things that you would hear from Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang.
I think he does
Korea.
do that. I think he does do that.
Walk down the street, I shoot this lady in the head, and I still get elected Supreme Leader every lifetime. Because that's how long I am Supreme Leader, my whole life. So,
Although I'll admit though, when I was in Philadelphia, I did see a pro-Hillary ad, like a poster, that did look fairly Maoish. I thought, I thought it was like, making fun of her for being like, socialist and shit. But it had that like they call it the art style is social realism from the Soviet Union. It's got like the big rays and everything.
Propaganda
else.
posters.
yeah, exactly.
Propaganda posters, yeah. And it was a pro-Hillary poster, and I was like,
well, because of the popularity of that Hope poster from 2008 with Obama,
yeah.
but people didn't. Most ignorant people didn't realize that there was an artist behind that poster and that it was a work of art. And then they adopted it as a political poster. But
And a meme.
yeah, the whole my face front and center 11 by 17 like do not post bills like all over when a cool concert is coming to town. Like, no, that's very propagandist. That's very, 1936 Berlin kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the giant Lenin posters in Russia that would hang when they would have the big military parades go by.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's
with the
frightening.
faces on it.
But we're the laughing stock of the world right now.
Was this the poster?
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
That is very fucking Mao.
Yeah.
It's black and white, but it's not black or white. It's just like, it's blue.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
it's
very.
blue.
Oh my god.
Yep. That
The
is.
rising sun
and-
of
and-
Hillary.
And is it not just like?
Here.
I mean, and it is a pro Hillary.
That's so
poster.
weird.
Yeah. Here's the comparison.
There you go. The same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chairman Hillary.
Yeah, I mean
Today.
that was kind of scary. Like,
No.
Well, I guess it's almost as good.
Here's a good one. Not hope, but nope.
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 Now, find the statue in Manhattan of naked Trump.
Oh,
What?
Do a search for
that
naked
was all
Trump
over the
statue.
place.
That was
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
because it's anatomically correct as well.
Here's another good one. They put Hillary in place of Rosie.
Put it a little bit to your right. There you go.
Rosie the Riveter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And chicks dig that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so funny because it would be a big deal.
You're gonna love this one. Wait, let me get the angle right.
What does it say?
USSA Hillary 08. So that's an older one.
No, it's like a. I can't see it.
It was in
Click writing.
Cyrillic. Awesome.
That's awesome. That is so good.
You
Wow.
know.
Oh shit! There's all kinds of fucked up shit.
So bad.
I know. I love it.
I found the Donald Trump one. This is just awful.
Right? Isn't it
God.
just stomach churning?
Yes.
But you know it's bad when at dinner tonight, my older son is turning 13. And at dinner tonight, and I even made this comment to Rachel in the car, you know it's bad when my ultra Republican in-laws are shit-talking the Republican candidate for president.
They were shit talking Trump?
Absolutely. In public, at dinner, and basically laughing.
What
All
were
the
they
way to the
saying?
voting booth.
I gotta know. What were they saying?
It was just
Please.
about the ridiculousness of the deportation of 12 million people and the building of a wall that's going to be paid for by a country that
Is on
is
the other
not
side of
going
it.
to pay for the wall. You know? It's like, come on.
You
So,
know,
And yet, are they still going to vote for him?
we don't talk politics in my family. We don't talk politics. But my assumption is yes. That has to be my assumption. Because who else is there? The dude from the what's his name?
Gary Johnson,
Gary Johnson.
Jill Stein.
Yeah. Who is she? The Green Party?
Yep.
You're gonna get a Republican to vote for Green Party? Oh, you know what we do? Oh, and this was kind of the whole reason that we got on the conversation about politics. Shit.
Maine.
Maine, we talked about Maine, and
Oh, yeah.
Paul LePage is a douchebag, and hopefully he'll get impeached. But the real reason I brought it up was things are very quickly changing in the state of Arizona around legal marijuana. On the ballot this year, November 2016, which is part of the reason why all of a sudden the state of Arizona is up in the air. They've been saying for the last 10 years that eventually we will be enough minority in the state of Arizona that we will be more of a purple state than a red state, and that it'll be a toss-up state from election to election.
Honestly, that's one reason why I think Trump might lose Arizona.
Well,
Because
so
there are a lot of Hispanic voters who are traditionally conservative
30%.
because they vote on things like abortion and all that other stuff.
30% Latin in the state of Arizona.
But the problem is when you're talking about all this smack and shit and everything else, it's really easy to alienate that
You
voting
add to
bloc.
that Prop 25, which is the legalization of recreational pot, and you've got yourself a big problem for the Republicans in Arizona.
Awesome.
Because that has shown, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago,
Mhm.
the percentage of the populace that comes out to vote for legal marijuana bills is extraordinary. 80% in both Colorado and Washington State.
Here's something I learned, okay? So SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, gives each state a block grant. It actually gives them two, a substance abuse and a mental health services block grant. The total combined for the two grants for Arizona is $51 million. Now, with that
Nothing.
grant comes a lot of, strings attached to it. We have to do this, we have to do that, we have to really fall in line with what they tell us we have to do. Well, if we were to legalize marijuana and then, like Colorado, put taxes on it and revenues and all those other things for it, and all the other monies that we save, if we can make just $52 million extra for this, we can be out from underneath SAMHSA's thumb. We can be out from underneath federal regulations.
And we
can
know
keep that.
that in the state of Colorado in 2015, they brought in $1 billion.
Oh yeah.
Dollars.
I'm just talking 51 million here.
51 million is nothing. And it's kind of pathetic. That's what it is currently. $51 million.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what will happen next in the legalization of substances. Since mushrooms are getting a lot of popularity for anti-depression, I wonder if that will become something that you can grow at home and take next.
It's hard to grow mushrooms.
Yes.
But
it used to be hard to grow good weed. Now
it's that I was just going to say that. You're right.
Yeah.
It used to be very difficult to grow pot that you could actually smoke. Now it's not.
We've had so many people, so many weed advocates who have done all the work and figured out the best process for us, that all we got to do now is look on YouTube.
Yeah.
We can figure out how to grow the best weed in the world and where to get the best strains and everything. And
it started with medical use. That's
yes.
really what kind of,
exactly.
broke the seal on all of this.
It began to normalize it and make it really more of an acceptable part of of society. It became there started to become a socially acceptable place for it to be, whereas before the only place it had to be really was in like stoner culture or the underworld, basically.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be that because it's not dangerous.
which is
Mhm.
unfortunately the same place that mushrooms kind of fit in right now. It's stoners, hippies,
Mushrooms,
counterculture people.
mushrooms are another. They're mushrooms like weed are something that you can't really OD on. You can get really sick, but
Yeah.
you're never going to die. Your body will just purge it out.
Mhm.
So
And if they can figure out a medical use, like you're saying, then it could open the door. Then all of a sudden the floodgates open.
yeah,
And it's
go
cool. So,
go build yourself a little poppy garden in your backyard and
right.
have your own like painkillers instead of going to the doctor and getting pain therapy treatment. Just
Well, and
just slice that opium pod and put some on a little glass pipe and hey, it's organic, it's
when
natural.
I
Not like you're producing heroin and selling it and buying it.
when I was struggling to stay off the shit, I scoured the internet for I want to say it's the Jerusalem poppy. That is the opium poppy. And I tried to find seeds for this particular species of poppy to grow in my home to then do exactly what you said, process the opium myself. Um, I mean, I told you guys before, I was looking for every alternative to, synthetic drugs, morphine and heroin and oxy or whatever that I could possibly find. And there are, unfortunately, right now, and I'm not going to give any name brands, but I could walk over to Circle K right now and get what equates to a medium power opioid over the counter at Circle K in a little bottle that looks exactly like a 5-hour energy drink. And they've now started locking them up behind the counter because people were stealing them.
What's it called?
I said I wasn't going to say.
Oh.
Well, let's just say there is a particular supplement. It's still being unregulated, and it's been outlawed in the state of California because they got hip to it. But in Arizona and 40 plus other states, it is completely legal to walk into a convenience store and buy a little bottle of this stuff. And it even says on the bottle, aches and pains, makes you feel great, forget about your troubles. And you spend $6 on this little bottle, and you basically got a bottle of opium. And there was a friend of Rachel's whose husband is a struggling heroin addict. He kicked the shit, according to him, and his wife started seeing all these little bottles, these energy drink bottles, and according to him, they were just supplements. They helped with his withdrawals or with his, staying clean. And then she did a little bit of research and realized, no, he's getting high, just like he was before. But she found like 50 of these empty bottles in the backseat of his car because it's obviously not as powerful as going down to the street and buying heroin, but it was enough to level him out and keep him from getting sick. And to a drug addict like me, it is so tempting to just fill up my jug of soda and buy a bottle of over-the-counter heroin. Why not? So it's interesting because if we legalize marijuana and then we find a reason to legalize mushrooms, and they're talking about medical uses for GHB, and all of a sudden it becomes harder and harder to say that keeping drugs illegal is good for society when weed starts bringing in billions of dollars in tax revenue, when countries like Portugal are able to prove that violent crime has gone down, that addiction has gone down, that recovery has gone up, all of these positives to decriminalizing drugs, all it's going to take is a Bernie Sanders coming into the presidency who basically says the drug war is over. We lost. Now we need to focus on recovery.
Yeah.
Because
Amen.
the drug war, the result of the drug war, the casualties of the drug war have been addicts locked up in prison who are still fucking addicts. They are still actively using the drugs that they can get in prison. My aunt came on this show and spoke of the outrageous drug use and addiction problems that exist in a prison in Montana, for Christ's sake. Not Rikers Island in New York City. This is Montana. I think the legalization of drugs, the decriminalization of drugs is no more than 10 years, 15 years out. Hopefully sooner.
I don't know.
I don't either, but I hope so. Because our generation will be the ones in power making these decisions in 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the ones who can't look down our Facebook friends list more than 10 people and not find an addict or an alcoholic.
This is absolutely true. And I mean, I can't think of anyone I know my age who still holds on to the exact same. And I mean, we're well into the age right now in our lives where we pretty much have solidified a lot of what our, beliefs are. We're not just going through those phases anymore. And I don't know people who would hold on to the kind of idea of, oh, we can't legalize marijuana or anything else like that because that's just, there's a value against it or whatever.
Right.
And I absolutely, completely agree with you. You can't go down that without realizing that, they're your friends, your family. I mean, they may even be you at one point or another. So really, it's going to be a major change when we start coming up in the ranks.
And when you look at the current generation in power, the generation of our parents, they were the ones who stopped giving a shit about people's sexual orientation. And then all of a sudden, gay marriage becomes completely legal for all. Because the previous generation started to die off or retire off.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we don't care. Yeah, I know. I had gay friends coming up. They weren't any different than me. They had the same struggles. They had the same goals and dreams, and they were the same shitty decision makers that I was. And if they want to be miserable and get married, let them. It's none of my fucking business. And I'm the same way about, I'll be honest, I've said it a million times, I would rather weed be legal than alcohol.
And I'm still waiting for marriage to, self-destruct and implode like they've claimed it would be. I mean, I'm just wondering how that'll play out because they were pretty adamant about, marriage
Ruin marriage forever.
Yeah, ruining marriage for everyone. I'm still.
And I'm also waiting for the legalization of bestiality and, men that want to marry their horses, or how about, because gay marriage is legal now, it's you must get gay married. Like, I have not been partnered up with a man to get married to yet. Have you?
No.
See, because I'm not gay.
Gay. Yeah.
Therefore, I'm not going to get gay married.
No.
But it's nice to know I could if I wanted to.
I might.
Yeah, why not?
I have become very interested in lady boys in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. There's something very interesting about them. And I don't consider myself to be gay at all. I've never considered myself to be gay or bisexual, but I've always considered myself to be queer, which doesn't really have anything to do with gender as much as it does just being fucking queer,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense.
I think it does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I see a beautiful woman, and she's obviously a beautiful woman with nice breasts and a great figure, and everything about her is woman, except for one little thing, does that really make a difference? You know?
Right.
I know a bunch of guys who are just like, I can show them 100 pictures, and they'll just be like, "Oh my God, I would love to hit that." And then that last picture where she's naked and she doesn't have a vagina, it's like, "Oh my God, freaking out now." Okay, why are you freaking
What's
out?
wrong with me?
It's a woman. It
Right.
doesn't mean you're gay because you just got turned on by looking at a woman. So,
It's all things that we're taught from a very young age,
yes.
and
Mhm.
I think we are teaching less of it now. At least I can tell you that with my children. They are less judgmental. They are less, they think it's, to them it's totally normal. Went to Thanksgiving with a friend, and my friend was there with his wife. I was there with my wife, and his brother was there with his husband. And this is totally normal to my kids.
Yeah.
And I love it,
Mhm.
because love is love. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So, we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope. I hope it goes in the direction where things like being gay or being an addict or being different, being queer,
Queer.
are not seen as wrong.
Positive or negative. They're just
Yeah,
different. Yeah. They're not positive. They're not negative. They are just different. It's the hardest thing to get people to understand. There is no such thing as good or bad. It's just what you were raised to believe. And then when you become an adult, that's when you decide whether or not you want to hold on to some of those old beliefs or invent your own or adapt different ones from the world instead of from the real world instead of from the home world.
yeah.
That's part of growing up
There was
and
a very
and letting
interesting
go. Yeah.
there was a very interesting episode of the podcast that I enjoy very much called Radio Lab, and it was about, I think the title was like the girl who is from nowhere, and it was an American girl who was born in the United States to American parents, white, blonde hair, normal white girl, middle of the country somewhere, and her parents, she gave birth to the daughter at home and didn't get the government involved in the birth of this child. She was homeschooled. She had 9 brothers and sisters. They all lived at home. They didn't have access to television or the internet or anything that would have been considered unacceptable to these religious parents. And when she turned 18, she decided she wanted to run away with her grandparents and live a normal life and not under the rule of her parents anymore. And then came upon an impossible situation that because she had no birth certificate, because she never received a piece of mail, she never went to school, she never got vaccinated, she never got properly baptized in a church, she wasn't born in a hospital, she didn't exist. She couldn't get a driver's license.
The girl who didn't exist is what it's called.
I think, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Alicia Pennington.
Yeah. She could not enter our social system.
That sucks.
And there were people, it was really interesting, there were people on both sides. There were the sovereign people that said, your parents gave you a gift. You're not tied to the system. You haven't given away your freedoms. You haven't willfully joined this life of slavery. But then there are the other people saying, hold on, she can't get a bank account. She can't get a job. She can't vote. She can't get a driver's license. She can't go to school. She can't do anything because she doesn't exist. She's literally stuck in limbo. I think it was in Texas. It was in Texas for sure.
Yeah.
And they finally had to try to figure out how to pass legislation that would allow for basically a witness to say, yes, I witnessed this birth on this date, this time, and create a birth certificate and create an identity for this girl. And even pushing it, I don't think this part of it passed, but pushing it as far as saying parents that did this to their children and then refused to do whatever it took to get them their documents could be held liable for child abuse, essentially. And I think that part didn't end up making it into the legislation, but they finally got this girl an identity. But it was the weirdest thing that she joined society, and all she wanted to do was join society. But because she had been raised in this family and had been told what was right and what was wrong, what was good and what was bad, she didn't know how to act around other people. She didn't know what was truly right and truly wrong. So she would see things on television and she would get really uncomfortable even watching by herself, because according to her parents, seeing that man and that woman kissing was like a hell-worthy trespass because they weren't married. And it was just really interesting episode. I recommend it. But I remember, Robinson, you and I having long conversations about when I was trying to legally emancipate myself from my parents, that while I was in the process of doing that, I should figure out how to become a sovereign citizen of the state of California. And there are some things that sound really great about that. You're not going to pay taxes. You're not governed by the laws of the federal government. You're only governed by the laws of the state.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages.
But then there's huge disadvantages.
Especially when you need help from the government.
Right. So.
Yeah. But if you become too successful, then the government sees that you're making money and they're not getting their cut, then they will find a way to get it from you by finding it's a flaw somewhere in your system, and then you're fucked because of course you have to be making a lot of money before that happens.
Yeah.
But it's hard to not raise red flags when you're making money.
Unfortunately.
I'm still out of the system, and it's causing me problems now because I want to be part of the system in Vietnam, and I can't because I don't have documents proving that I'm part of the system here.
And she ran into the same trouble that people who were refugees or seeking asylum from other countries found it easier to get the documentation or the green card or the visa or whatever that they needed because they could prove that they existed in this other country.
Yeah.
But she couldn't. She couldn't have proved that she existed anywhere. Weirdest thing.
I love Radiolab.
I know, it's wonderful.
Great stories.
So, for the sake of time, this has been the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. And we'll be back next Saturday night at 10 p.m. as we are always. Please subscribe to the YouTube link right below, right there by my junk. Or maybe it's off to the left. I don't know. So's my junk. And like us on Facebook, facebook.com/soberhappyhour. Follow us on Twitter @soberhappyhour. Shoot us an email, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. Oops, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. That's what I tried to say. And Chaz and Robinson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Glad you're back.
By the
Glad to be
way,
back.
By the way,
you never asked me how my week was.
fuck, I'm such an asshole. How was your week, Robinson?
It's pretty shitty, thanks.
Oh, man.
Now it's even
You know what?
shittier because I didn't get to talk about it.
That's why I didn't ask. Because I didn't want you to have to relive the shittiness that was your week. I was doing you a favor.
Last week, I was on my way out at like 8:30, and I realized, oh my God, it's a radio show. And I turned around, and I came back home, and I started setting up the equipment, and then I got your message. By the way, there's no show. I'm like,
It was my
Okay.
friendly reminder message.
yeah, it was good, and it was like, okay, it was good, and I appreciate that because I need to be reminded quite frequently.
As do I. Trust me. So, we will see you all again next Saturday at approximately 10 p.m. and we'll get the podcast up as soon as we possibly can. And if you or yours is considering getting sober, I highly recommend it. Have a good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Peace out.